going to be a little bit of a departure from my normal videos. We're going to start working on the Harley Davidson. We got to do some things. First of all, this winter, we're going to rebuild the forks. We're going to be doing a little bit of cosmetic modification, let's call it that. And we're going to give this thing a full detail over the winter. And I want to take this 2005 71,446,000 mile motorcycle, and I really want to make it look as close to new again as possible. I've owned this thing since I was 16. I'm 30 years old now. And I just kind of want to give it a good refresh. This thing has been really good to me. Been too good to me. But better than I deserve. I'm going to give back to her a little bit. Okay, I think I have everything I need laid out, so hopefully we can make this video go fairly smoothly. So what we're going to do first is take off the fork brace, and that is simply because that will free up everything to get everything else out of the way, which will be good. If you watch my channel, you'll know that I do a ton of different car repairs and truck repairs and engine swaps, and we've done transmissions at our shop and everything else. Anything under the sun you can think of. And I like doing all that stuff, for sure. It's fun. It's all part of the hobby. However, to be honest, I would say by far my favorite thing to work on is motorcycles. And I don't really work on a ton of motorcycles because I've only got one. And despite popular belief, honestly, Harleys are pretty reliable. So you kind of just don't necessarily need to do a ton of stuff on them most of the time. This fork brace is a tight fit with the powder coat on the lower forks. So it's a little bit tricky sometimes to get this off compared to a stock bike without powder coat on the forks. We'll get this fender off. Oh, you know what? I can give you some sizes here. So that fork brace, not that you're going to have the same fork brace, that was a 3/16. This is a 1/2 inch wrench and a 1/4 inch Allen. And then these guys have a special, Harley uses a lot of these special nuts. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. Well, after I throw them on the ground. But if you look really close, you can see that there's a dimple in that. And what that does is it just deforms the nut just enough that it kind of acts like a pseudo lock washer. And to be honest, these have been on and off enough times that feature is kind of broke on these. But from the factory, you'd be surprised. They're pretty hard to take on and off, which is good, so they don't come flying off while you're riding. And then your fender's flapping in the wind, which, you know, for obvious reasons wouldn't be good. Careful. It's like giving birth to a fender. Right? The brake caliper bolts are actually a 10 millimeter 12 point. The only reason I'm using a wrench is because I actually don't have a 12 millimeter 10 millimeter 12 point. It's a tongue twister. Here at the house, apparently. So that's fun. So we'll just use this guy. Not a big deal. Get that off. So you just gotta do this twice, but most of your Sportsters will only have one, so you'd be done already. And I think if you have one, I want to say it's on this side. Am I wrong on that? I don't know. I have to look at a picture. I'm really not 100% sure on that off the top of my head. 3/4 inch. I believe the newer Sportsters might be metric. I don't know. I feel like they might be though. So take that for what it's worth. It is 9/16 and 5/16. We'll screw that off. Right now we are ready to pull the axle and then therefore the tire. Usually they come out pretty good if, and this is a big if, you have it anti-seized. If you don't have it anti-seized, you might wind up hitting it with a hammer. Now that's okay, but you do need to be careful because you don't want to hit it with a metal hammer because you can damage it. And you're going to take your small spacer that'll go on first. We'll probably re-anti-seize this too anyway, so if I get it dirty, I don't really care. But small spacer, big spacer, flat washer, lock washer. We'll get that axle nut. We'll screw that fella on there. And then I'm going to show you a little trick that I actually just thought of. We'll take our pinch bolt. We'll just run that through the axle hole here, just so that we can't lose that guy. And now we got everything in one spot. And our hands are covered in ACs. Really a win-win when you think about it. Before I do anything else, I'm going to start draining these forks because if I take these screws out and drain them now, it'll be a whole lot easier than if I pop the caps and flip them upside down. You got to be real careful on these guys. They are usually very tight. See that? You will strip the ever-loving crap out of these things if you're not careful. So just keep that in mind. Push in. There we go. Hard, and just kind of be ready for it. And then we'll see if our angle is good. I'll probably pick this up. Oh, that's strange. What the heck? Okay, that should be dripping oil right now. That I don't have an answer as to why that's not dripping. Let's take this one out. All right. I'm a little puzzled by that, to be honest. There's definitely fork oil in these, by the way. I will point that out to you. That's strange. Huh. All right, now for the bottom of the fork, it's a 6mm Allen. Now, really, you don't want ball end, to be honest. These are pretty tight, typically. Even if you torque them to spec, they just love to tighten up. You do need an extended reach one. And we're going to try this by hand, but I've found that you almost always need an impact gun to break the stiction because it just winds up spinning the bolt and not actually unscrewing it. Although, oh, that was my ratchet. Oh, this one's coming right out. So that's a nice, that's good. Let's see if this one will. I feel like one of these I always have issues with for no particular reason, but no, wow. I'm actually shocked those both broke free that easy. That is a first for me. Usually I gotta get the impact and just give it a quick, and it really won't break the bit. So I just did a little oopsie off camera, of course. I forgot that with this setup, the fork tube will now come off, and now the oil is coming out because I kind of broke the seal, which is fine, but I just got, well, they won't come off, but they'll drop down. So that's the ticket. You gotta push this down. See how as I push this down, the oil starts coming out? I'm actually not sure why that's the case, to be honest, but it apparently holds the oil in there. Would you be doing the job correctly if you didn't make a mess on the floor? Absolutely not. Something very interesting. Look at how different the color is between that fluid on the left hand versus the right hand side. To be honest, I don't know what that's all about. Maybe because this one was leaking a lot, the fluid got contaminated. But that is actually noticeably different. I can't say that I feel like a lubricity difference. That doesn't mean there isn't one, but I just don't feel it. But, well, we're replacing it. Doesn't matter. For this next part, I have a super convoluted way of doing this. I actually use a 36mm socket. Whoa! And I put a towel over it. And I do that so I don't scratch the cap, and then that takes up enough slack that it works. Probably should just get the right size socket, but I've done this a lot of times and it has worked. Watch it not work now, of course. But yeah, no problem. Again, if you've like tightened this thing to the moon, you know, your mileage may vary, but this does work. Hashtag real talk. I don't even have the right size socket for that, so that's fun. And once you've done that, you've got just the tiniest bit of spring pressure. I probably should have showed you that, but it just bumps up a little bit. Not a huge deal. Also, if you have like stock handlebars or anything close to stock handlebars, unfortunately you got to pull the handlebars off because they'll be in the way. But because this has the riser and pullback, my handlebars are not in the way, which is very convenient. You know, again, you might not be so lucky, but pulling the handlebars off isn't too bad. You can pull the actual mounts off, which is just 2 big bolts, or you can pull the 4 bolts on the top cap. Listen for the bounce here in a second. There you go. And we're off. Very good. We're going to now pull the monotube out. Carefully. It should clear, like I said. We'll just kind of wipe it as we go to keep any grease from contaminating the world here. And that's that. Relatively straightforward. We'll put this on the table. You want to put these in a sort of clean space so you don't just like get a bunch of contaminants on them and then shove them back in your forks. Oh, look at this, guys. So this is the fork tube that was not leaking as much, I believe. No, I don't remember. Yeah, this is the less leaky one, but look. There is contamination on here. So we're going to kind of look out for that. Something's going on here. Ooh, we've got a lot of metal in there. Something is unhappy right now. Glad we took these off. Very interesting. Maybe we bent one or something. Never seen or heard of this before, but the entire top of this tube is rusty. I don't know what that's all about. I have no idea how water would have gotten in there. It's not like this thing's ever been apart and like left in the rain or something. That is bizarre. I mean, I can clean it out. It's not a huge deal, but that is strange. I might wind up pulling the tube off. But this side's perfectly clean. That is weird. Let me know in the comments if you've seen that before. I have never heard of that being a problem in my life. Huh. You can see all that rust. I mean, I'm assuming it's rust, but it's like brown dust, so probably rust. Is all on here. Huh. Very interesting. I'm going to do, and you want to be careful doing this because it's not really meant to be done outside the bike, but just get a feel for how everything's working. It's smooth and good. I think we're in real good shape, but just that's probably not the worst thing to do in the world. Make sure both sides feel the same. You can feel the dampening a little bit. It's not super easy to feel because it's like there's a spring attached to it, of course, but yeah, they feel similar. The thing I wanted to check, and I feel like I heard, listen very closely. There's a little bit of play. Now, I don't know if there's supposed to be play, but I really don't think there is. So, ooh, this one's worse. Yeah, so those new bushings should do us some good. That play doesn't help your seal either. Now, granted, this would be up here, but even so, there's still play. A lot of play down there, but you figure your ride height's somewhere up here. Yeah, I guess where the ride height is, there's really not as much play, but there's a little bit. Oh. Check this out, guys. Look at this neck bearing. This is why we're doing this. Look at that. That neck bearing's got a bunch of play in it. Like I said, always check the neck bearings when you do this. Now, I'm going to warn you, I might destroy these caps getting them off. They went on real hard because of the powder when I first put them on. But we'll see if I can save them. I kind of might want to get new ones anyway, so I'm really not too worried about it. But I'd rather not mar the powder up, and I'd rather destroy the cap because I can replace the cap easily enough. But actually, so far so good. Oh, look at that. All right. Okay. We'll take that every day of the week. Try this one. Wow. That actually wound up working out much better than I expected. Cool. Favorite zip tie. Zip tie on the fork. And you can hold those caps out of your way. That just helps you do the rest of it. At this point, since I'm taking the forks off, I could just pull the forks first and then do this, but I kind of like to pull this stuff with it on the bike because I find that it's easier sometimes. Just gives you like a good working height and you're not fighting with stuff on the table. This like rubber dust shield cap thing, a seal pick probably would work here, and I do have one, but the screwdriver technique works so well. And you can't see the powder under here, so even if I did mar the powder, it really kind of doesn't matter. So we'll just kind of work around this seal. Get that to come up. You can just kind of hit it like that. Comes right off. Actually, that seal will hold the cap up too, but then you got to fight it until you get the cap up. So to waste 2 zip ties, well worth it in my opinion. But I always debate on the best shape of pick for this, but we'll use this one. Probably doesn't matter that much. You can probably use whatever your favorite shaped pick is. I feel like everybody has a go-to. So that'll come off. You can just kind of gingerly pry that around. And then we'll get this one over here. Wow, this one's much cleaner. Oh, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you can see that. Much cleaner. Okay. And then this should be free to come off if I remember correctly. There we go. Easy enough. Perfect. So this step's going to be a little different if you've got stock trees. On these Pro 1 Performance trees, it is an Allen head. It's a 3/16 stock. It's like a T, probably 40 Torx, give or take. Not really sure the exact size, so you're going to have to look that one up. But we'll loosen these guys up. We'll take them all the way out eventually and put Loctite on them, but for now, they're just getting loosened up. These are very critical that you torque to the proper spec. For one, it's threads into aluminum. And for two, whoa! Shit. Didn't really think about what I was doing there. That's okay. We'll inspect that tube, make sure we didn't mess it up. Oops. On this side, let's try to be a little bit more responsible. Well, you know, what are you gonna do? Things happen, you know? Nothing in life is perfect. Except me, I'm perfect. Once they go, they go. Oh, that was the car. We're good. Working in tight quarters. Got to be careful. Okay. Sure. So. Now we're going to strip these guys clean. So we're going to cut these zip ties off first. All right. Snip. Snip. And then we'll get the caps off. And finally, rubber seals. If you're worried, I have a schematic for this because I have the service manual, but if you're worried about not knowing what direction these go back in, probably would be good to lay all this stuff out in the order it came off. I have done this once or twice, so I'm not super worried about that. But guess what? Can't hurt to do. Okay. And finally, we got to pry these little fellers off the bottom. They come off pretty easy. And then we've got two bare tubes. Simple as that. Oh, got the little topper, or I'm landing a wheelie spring. That's what that one is. Forgot that was in there. See the surface finish here? How it's all different and changing? That's not good. So we really got to clean these tubes up and get them to be much more kind of universal. There's also some nicks there. Don't love that, TBH. I might wind up putting new tubes on this thing. I got to do some soul searching on that one and look up pricing. I really don't want these to leak again, at least not, immediately. So it may be worth investing in some tubes. God knows these things have seen some action and some miles. But we'll see. We'll see about that. I could also get silly and do longer tubes and blah, 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 but that's going to add a whole lot of cost and all that sort of thing. But anywho, we're not going to worry about that right now. So in order to re-crosshatch these, you basically take Scotch-Brite and you just kind of go up and down it like this. And you actually don't want it to be super shiny. That's kind of a misconception because you want a little bit of a crosshatch for the seal to, like a piston, to work. So you just kind of go back and forth like this. Not terrible, but you see that vertical scoring? That's the kind of stuff that'll make your seal leak over time. And it won't necessarily leak right away. So you'll be like, oh, I fixed it, and then you didn't fix it. So one of the things I actually want to do is brake clean these off a little bit to get them so that Scotch-Brite grabs a little harder. So I've got some good news about these forks. I did a bunch of research last night on the internet. I don't think these are as kind of unsavable as I was thinking they were. I just need to actually take some sandpaper and do some sanding. So we are going to do that. And then actually you can get clear epoxy if you want to try to fill some nicks like that. However, that might not even really be low enough that it matters. We're going to take a little bit of 1500, well, really probably do 1000 grit and then 1500 grit wet and just sand these. You want to do them this way. And we'll kind of see how that goes. This is going to be a pretty simple technique here. Whoa. So we got 15,000, 1500, 2000. Should take care of everything we need it to. So basically what we're going to do is spray an affected area. And then you're literally just going to do this. And it's good to go a little bit up and down. So I wound up going to the store to get some Scotch-Brite because I didn't like the way the sandpaper was giving me, what surface finish it was giving me. So we're going to do this the quote-unquote right way, the way that I was taught on the YouTubes. And this really gives it a good, like, brand new surface finish to go off of, or so is the claims anyway. We're going to fill in these nicks. I'm going to show you how. A little bit with some epoxy. Cool. All right, so this next part's going to be super simple. We're going to take anywhere there's a nick. We're just going to put a little bit of 2-part epoxy on it, and that's about it. Pretty simple. I've now epoxied those couple spots. There's obviously a lot of extra epoxy, but that's fine. We can chip it all off, sand it all off, whatever, doesn't matter. We'll probably take a razor blade and get under it and just kind of scrape it off. All right, so I was tired and I took a nap, which I think is going to let us have this be dry enough that we can scrape the epoxy off of these. So the best technique I found for doing this works for a clear coat on paint too, if you like get a clear coat drip, is you just scrape the top like I am right here. And it's not the fastest process in the world, but it does work. All right, so hashtag real talk, that didn't work at all. I don't know if the internet, if I didn't do it right or something, but these nicks are way too small to get the epoxy to even seat. So I'm literally just scraping it all off, and I'm just going to re-scuff these. Next thing on the list is going to be, we're just cleaning up a little bit here. I'm going to swap out all these parts for the new stuff, so that when we go to rebuild them, we got all nice new fresh parts, lay a paper towel down, all that kind of thing. And then we'll start cleaning the fender. I got to paint the fender. We got to do the neck bearing situation on here. So I'm going to start investigating all this kind of stuff. So stock trees are different, but this Pro 1 Performance tree is a 5/16. Apparently it's tight, as all get out. That is not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, that is now loose and moving independently of the bottom tree, so we can kind of do the bearing eval. Forgot to turn the camera on, but just for testing purposes, I tightened the tree bolt, and everything feels great. So I'm definitely thinking that that bolt just came loose. Loctite this, I anti-seized it, right or wrong. But it's aluminum on steel, which is why I anti-seized it. But yeah, this actually does not... Oh, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, your boy made a mistake a couple years ago when he installed these, many years ago now. So that pinch bolt only pinches the shaft of the steering head or whatever. It does not pinch the bolt. So we got to clean these threads out and get Loctite on these threads, or that's going to happen again. So that is kind of scary. This has been slowly working its way off. I mean, very minimally, obviously, but yeah, that's a miss. That's a swing and a miss on my part. Oopsie. Good news is, really didn't affect anything. But because of that, I will pop this off and check the bearings quick, just to be on the safe side. I want to point out, if this tank were in better shape, I would not be doing this, but this is kind of a temporary used tank I have on the bike because I damaged the original tank. There's a whole video on that if you're interested. I won't get into it in this video. But, alright, yep, so let's leave that there. I just need to pop this down enough to see the bearing. Yeah, so this bearing's fine. On the bearing side, anyway. Alright, you know what? God, I'm such a paranoid human being. I'm going to take everything all apart because I want to look at this stuff more closely. I was going to just kind of peek in there, but I don't have the... my brain doesn't work that way. I got to look at it all. This is getting sketchier as we do this. I like it. Gentle. If we do this gently, we should be able to get away with it. Famous last words. Alright. So, let's look at what we got. We got a little tiny bit of debris on here that's perfectly normal. We'll clean all that up and re-grease it. Not a big deal. These things are not fully sealed. It just is what it is. But this bearing is in good shape. It's got a decent amount of grease on it. We'll repack it. That off camera, but I got the top bearing out. So we'll get these cleaned up. We'll just go ahead and re-grease them. What the heck? We had it all apart anyway. It'd be kind of crazy not to. And nobody ever in the world is going to do this. But you kind of actually should re-grease these semi-often, like every 5 years maybe, because if you ride a lot. Because, like, water just gets in there. I don't care what you do, it just does. And they will get rusty and crappy, so while they're still in great shape like these are, you might as well tweak them, you know, get them good. So, all right, now we're going to pack the bearings. Everyone seems to have their own way of doing this. They make bearing packers, but I just do the old school method. You just kind of like you like push the bearing into a glove like this, and then when you see grease coming out, that's how you know that that area is packed well. This is actually a battery terminal brush, but it happens to fit. This is stainless, or this is steel, so you're not going to hurt anything. But we'll just kind of get those threads cleaned out like that too. You also got to clean the bolt off really well. This is a little bit easier, but you can see all the junk coming off of there. Now that I have them both clean, I'm going to do like a little test thread. I just kind of want to see like if any junk comes up or if anything gets exposed from screwing this in. Yeah, that came out pretty clean, so I think we're in good shape. Okay, so what I actually decided to do was get a little bit of the grease away from the top of here so that the pinch bolt doesn't have to pinch over grease, because that kind of helps things from loosening up. So what we're going to now do is go ahead and try to reinstall this whole deal. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit weird because of the bars on, but we'll squeak her in there. Send this bottom one through. Alright, that's good. And then we got to just kind of get our bearing and sneak that back in. This is going to be tricky. I'm going to probably get grease all over everything, but I've accepted that fate. So just for now, we're going to put this all the way in. And then we'll wind up taking it out and Loctiting it, but I need to set the fork tube heights and kind of do all that stuff first. Okay, so temporarily, we're literally just going to tighten that bolt up until there's no play in anything. So we're going to tighten it up to get rid of that play right there. And you got to be able to turn the fork separate still, because we got to be able to put the tubes in. So we'll get our wrench on there. Okay, that should be tight enough to get rid of the play anyway. Now I'm going to go ahead and lay everything out that we need. Go ahead and take this guy. Carefully pry that off. And just go right over the top. Doesn't stretch them out too much. That's good there. We'll just jump right into brake cleaning and installing the forks, rebuilding them. So simple enough. Get a fresh towel. Clean these up a little bit just to get any more residue off. All right, first step, we'll drop our springs in just so that we don't forget them. They are probably the easiest part of this process to forget because everything will work perfectly until it doesn't work perfectly. So there's that. All right, now we'll go ahead and put these little fellas on. They just kind of slide on here and clip over. Same thing here. Now we can go from the top and put these bushings on. And they just kind of rest right there. And then we put our little, you know what you want to call these little like spacers on, whatever the heck we call them. Then we're going to put on these seals. Make sure you put them on in the right direction. So you want the closed end, if you will, should be toward the top of the fork. I know what you're thinking, oh, you're doing this without putting any oil on it. Well, guess what, guys? When you ride the bike, this thing is going to be sliding very quickly all the time on this tube without any oil on it. So you can install them wet if you want, but it's not going to change a dang thing. I'll do the same thing. Really, the biggest part with this is just make sure that you start it off cleanly. You don't want to be like folding the rubber over funny when you start it. Now, we're going to take our fork tube and we will take our lower and our fork tube. And then we're gonna put this here. We're going to drop the tube down a little bit just to make our lives easier. Just like that. Then we gotta press this in, and I'll show you how to do that. So you're gonna take a 1.5 inch PVC pipe. Just your run-of-the-mill thing from Lowe's or Home Depot. Make sure she's pretty square. We're just gonna kind of gingerly push this down. Good to kind of walk around the tube a little bit, just in case your hits aren't perfectly straight. Once you're done, you'll put your little C-clip in. This took a lot more force than I kind of remember, but I mean, I haven't done it in a while, so maybe that's just what they take. I'm not 110% sure I'm all the way in, but we'll find out real fast. That's seated nice. Okay. We are a little tiny bit off over here on this left-hand side. See how that clip is not seating? Man, that's close, though. Took a closer look. I think we're good. Make sure there's no debris in there. We're going to take our dust cover. I'm going to slide that gingerly over all the way down. And then this, I think, I hope, I pray, should not need the amount of force. Yeah, you don't want to use this tube because you'll, well, let's just give it a real ginger tap. Yeah, I don't want to break the dust seal, but I don't want to do that. Okay, that's pretty good. Now we take our metal cap, put that over, and I'm sure I'm going to say, oh, this shouldn't be that hard to do, and then it's going to be hard to do. So we'll just kind of line that guy up there. This is, I remember this actually being hard to do, unfortunately. Pain in the friggin' butt, man. Tap it on this way. There we go. Good call. Nice. Don't forget to put your little Phillips head screws back into the forks. I almost did. Don't be like me. Now we're going to take these fork tube bolts out. Fork bolts out. Pinch bolts out. Whatever. And get Loctite on them. And then we'll be able to slide the forks in. Okay, I've got my pinch bolts thoroughly Loctited. So we'll go ahead and slide her in. See that tapered section? Normally you'd go a certain amount above that tapered section, but I personally go right down to it because I want to get just a little bit more ride height. Why? Because I can. And it really won't hurt anything. You don't want to go below the tapered section theoretically because then you're going to lose pinching area and all that kind of stuff. Also, if you go right to the tapered section, it just makes it easier to know where your your final number is, kind of thing. So that helps. So we're just going to kind of line this up. Okay, that's just enough tension to keep that from sliding back down like we did earlier. I've always wondered something. These have 5 7/8 of travel. It's actually a touch less than that. But that does, if you measure this, that does allow you to basically touch this metal cap to the forks because to the triple tree because these are a little bit thicker. I always wondered. I've never bottomed it out, so I don't think in real life that you'll actually do that. But just kind of an interesting thing. I always just wanted to look just to see. I'm just now realizing that I put these tubes on backwards. Although I am glad I caught it now at least. Dang it! This is the other side. So, yeah. Well, and with some TV magic, they are back on correctly, thankfully. So we'll drop the tubes in. And we can drop the other tube in. Perfect. Now while I've got everything off, I want to clean the crap out of these lowers. And I'm going to try to buff them out a little bit. I want to see what we're kind of working with here. Now this is rotary and not a DA, obviously, so just gotta be a little bit gentle, but it shouldn't be too bad. So now we're gonna take our long reach Allen 7/16, I don't know, 6mm, not even close. These are Showa forks. They're Japanese. It's all metric. It's one of the few metric things on this bike, actually. And Showa makes a hell of a good set of forks, so that is not a problem with me. So anyway, we're going to tighten these guys in there. Hold your fork lower and just give it a good extra turn. Now, keep in mind, it's not going to be fully tight. It's going to be tight enough to hold oil, but after you screw this guy in, after you filled it with oil, then you got to tighten it a little bit more, because what happens is you're actually going to spin the threads where this thread's into. So you really can't get this tight enough for riding it. And I believe, and I'll find the torque spec on this, but just to get oil in it, these will be tight enough. That crush washer honestly seals the oil pretty good at a relatively low torque, so it'll be all right. Perfect. Good enough. Right, now we mix up my favorite concoction of fork oil, which is 12.5 weight for this. This is by far the worst part of this entire job, is trying to get friggin' fork oil in these damn things. But we'll make it happen. You gotta like very carefully look with a flashlight, do this deal with the funnel, and it's kind of annoying. For that process, we can go ahead and put our fork tube cap back on. Don't forget to give these guys a little bit of a turn. Go ahead and mount the tire back on. You just gotta kind of give her the wiggle. Get everything to fit. The axle nut is 55 foot-pounds. We're gonna put some Loctite on it. And this is something you should torque to the actual spec, because it matters. There you go. Perfect. This one's gonna be 21 to 27 foot-pounds. So we'll get that guy on there. Loctite, but you're not on. All the same things. This has a lock washer as well, but can't hurt to have a little bit of 27 foot-pounds. Finally, we can put the brakes back on. Once again, you can Loctite these. You probably should, but I've never had an issue, so we're going to rock and roll with the copious amounts of anti-seize that's on there. Screw these bolts back in, and we'll get the brakes done. Next step, and technically we should have the fender on, but I'll be honest with you, it's not enough weight to matter, is the fall-away test, so we can finally put these top clamp screws in. And the way you do that, basically, is you would set up a whole like jig, and you would wait to see if when the tire gets to 2 inches from center, and the bars should flop over on their own. Now, you got to do this properly. To do this properly, you have to take the all the wires and stuff off, because you'd be shocked the cables and the electrical stuff for the bike will actually stop it from flopping correctly. I have a pretty good feel for how this is supposed to be, just based on past doing it a bunch of times. So we're going to just kind of wing it. You know, you do you though, and you definitely should do it properly, but I'm going to wing it. So that's what we're doing. What I'm going to do is temporarily put this pinch bolt in, just so that I can remove the center bolt here without dropping the forks off the bike. And then we will unscrew this after. But for now, just put that in. That's plenty tight enough just to hold everything in place. We'll take this bolt out. I'm only taking the bolt out because I got to put Loctite on it still. I hadn't done that yet. So we'll get a bunch of Loctite on this, and then we can go ahead and do everything properly-ish. Okay, we got a bunch of Loctite on there. It's actually on the back side. You can't even see it, but screw this back in. And then once I can take the weight with that bolt again, we'll go ahead and loosen our pinch bolt, and we can set the fall away correctly. We got no play. That's good. Let's just kind of get a rough idea here. Yep, so that would fall. Yep. So that's about right. So now we're going to tighten this pinch bolt up nice and tight. But that's going to be where we'll leave that. And then we can go and do our 15 foot-pounds on these two guys with some Loctite. All right, Loctited, threaded in. Snug. Snug. More than snug. More than snug. Even with the two, I like to just go over them one more time. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. What I also need to do is sand the bottom of this fender, just throw some touch-up paint on it. The rest of the fender is dirty as all get out right now, but it is in good shape. So there's really no need to repaint this entire fender. I just need to clean it all up, buff it a little bit, and we'll be good. So yeah, we'll touch it up for now. I have the Harley Davidson OEM touch-up paint somewhere over here that I got out. Yep, good old Harley Vivid Black touch-up paint. This thing is getting pretty old, but I have used it recently and it does still work, so we'll see. Stay tuned. So this came out pretty good. I had to improvise. I don't have a foam pad for the drill, but that worked pretty good. Surface finish looks as good as you can expect for 20-year-old 70-some thousand mile paint on a bike that I take on dirt roads and just generally, you know, ride pretty hard and whatever. Yeah, I need to just, I touched some stuff up there, as you might have saw in the video. I'm gonna let that dry and then I'll put a coat of wax on it and good enough. I'm pretty happy with it. Well guys, that is gonna do it for phase one on the winter project for this bike. Obviously we got the fork lowers done, polished up the fork brace, polished up the fender, did all the internal seals and everything else, got new oil in it. Everything's looking pretty good on the front end. The bike is still absolutely filthy. So we'll, as we kind of go through, we'll clean it front to back and do all the things we got to do. For now, I'm going to take it off the motorcycle jack because I do want to test the front end quick. We're going to turn the camera on, but we are fishing the idle / now throttle cable out off of the Mahoney carburetor. We're going to pull this through along with the... Ah, I hit my brand new freaking puffed fender. Okay. So we've got a mess here. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Hashtag real talk right now. I never took off this little throttle cable support bracket that normally, with the original carburetor, sits like under this bolt here. The reason I didn't take it off is because I was lazy. Okay. Just going to shove this back in, I guess. Round 2 on this fella. Going to see if she's long enough to fit. Okay, so that housing is in place right there. Oh, my finger's right in front of the camera. That housing is in place. Down there. I'm going to take you guys off the tripod here. So on the Macoonies, that goes in right there. This is all dusty. Corroded looking anyway. It could be longer, but I do think we'll be okay. See if we can turn the bars here. Yeah, we're fine. We actually have plenty of room. I think we can also pull it. Oh, we got plenty of room. Yeah. That's like the perfect length, actually. I almost forgot to put the little boot on. Luckily, I have not attached anything yet. Not that it would be the end of the world if it just wasn't on there, but yeah, we're just going to do it the other side from the other side. Come take a look at this. See that drip of brake fluid right there on the back side right here? It's dripping all the way to the bottom. That side is leaking. However, the other two are not leaking. So I might actually try to tighten this bad boy up and see if I can't get that to stop leaking. The brake line's safe. That's not the issue. So I'd love to run this brake line another year. Because I really don't want to spend like $250 on a friggin' brake line. I just can't believe they're that much money. I can buy a set of stainless steel brake lines for my truck for that much money. Like, how is it that expensive? I don't know. Maybe I'm being a boomer, but I just, you know, I'm not freaking made of money here. I got to draw the line somewhere, guys. Just because I'm on YouTube doesn't mean I'm rich. Surely I'm not that. Anyway, let's cut this for now. I can cut my fraction of a cent zip tie. I can afford to do that. Alright, so let's get this guy just out and about. Pull this cable off. I want to show you something else also. I'm being very rough with this because, you know, these parts are essentially scrap, more or less, you know. I'd be being a little bit more gentle if I was going to reuse it, of course. I am going to keep it as a spare, but let's be honest. When the heck am I going to... Actually, I'm not going to keep this as a spare, and I'm going to show you why in a second. Well, I might, but... Look closely. This got all chewed up. I don't know if this was from me installing it wrong or whatever, but we got ripped cable. This is all weird. I don't know. I'm 50-50 on if I even want to keep this, TBH. So yeah, I might just leave this right on it for now, because if I do decide to get rid of it, I'll just cut the cable off. But whatever. Well, as much as I'm not a fan of this brake line here, I'm gonna have to eat my words a little bit. This really wasn't that tight. It was tight, but it wasn't like screaming tight. So there might be some room to get this to tighten up. And this is really janky because I gotta keep this low enough to clear the triple tree bolt there. I'm just trying to get this as... this is going to be really annoying. I want to put some torque on this without breaking stuff. That might work. Ooh, okay, okay. That was a good little snug without stripping it. That's the problem I was having. These were just stripping out when I tried to tighten them enough that they wouldn't leak. It wasn't like I was trying to... You know, believe me, I'd love to make this work for another couple of, for a long time. Ooh. Okay, okay. That's much tighter. Let's clean this up and put our zip tie back on and see what happens. That might actually have worked. That'd be great. I'd rather not spend $250. Alright, we will give that a couple minutes and see if that starts dripping. If not, I'm going to call it good. So, I've realized the front one, if you look really close, is leaking. I don't know if you can see that there. So I gotta try to tighten that more. You can see how much that one's stripped. That's the one I struggled with in the past. But I got rid of one of the leaks. So what the heck? We'll keep fighting it and see if we can get rid of it. Oh, I cannot get this front one to not leak to save my life. But I had an epiphany. I'm gonna try to cut this off and put a new fitting on it because this one's all chewed up. And maybe I can get a better, shaped flare and whatnot. And maybe we'll get a little lucky and it'll work better. Big thing here is I don't know if these are American or metric or what. So we are going to find that out, right? I think it's a 3/8 because it's not 8 mil, it's not 9 mil, it's not 10 mil. So I'm pretty sure it's 3/8 and I believe it is 20 thread pitch. I'll look that up and see if that's a standard size, but that does seem to fit pretty well. Feels a little weird to be honest, but I think it's just because these threads are kind of a little bit squared off, either by design or by the fact that I've been cranking on it. I have no idea. It looks like 3/8 24 is a common size, but I don't think this is 24. I think that's 20. So I don't know. I'll have to see if that's on here. And it's 4A. I'll measure the diameter of the line. I'm apparently missing some footage, but you can see here that I re-flared the end, put a new nut on it, and it did actually seal it. 187. So we won. Saved a bunch of money. Another thing we got to take care of. This sight glass leaked a little bit, and I took some silicone or whatever, and I put it around it temporarily. And it did seal it, but I'd like to fix that correctly. So I got to pop that out and do a new O-ring on it. They do sell kits too, so if I break the glass, I can buy new glass. I might just go ahead and buy one, honestly, before I even try to take it out, but we'll see. To my own surprise, the polishing compound is not frozen. That's pretty convenient. And using a power drill is very redneck, but guess what? It's not stupid if it works. Also, amazingly, the wax is not frozen. Small victories. Look at that shine, baby. And a little wax off action. Get the seat off. And the rear fender's a little too dirty for me to want to just spray detailer it and then buff it. But the side cover, the oil cover, is really not. That I can do. So we'll leave the seat off for a hot minute. And we will hit this side cover here. Clean some of this up while we're here. Alright. Now we're cooking with gas. And some unwaxing for this one. And a second coat. So this is my old kind of temporary tank. It's in terrible condition, to be honest, but we're going to go ahead and just try to buff it a little bit. Just because I kind of want to see how it works out, to be honest. And now for some polishing. Look at that. Quite the shine for a beat up old tank. Those of you who don't know, with these oil filters on the Sportsters, you want to stick a plastic bag under here, or they do make like a special funnel. You don't really want to drip any more than you have to on your engine mounts because they're rubber, and over time you can kind of mess up the engine mounts a little bit. All right, apparently that's 11/16-ish. Luckily, it's not like it's a bolt. I don't really care if we round it off a tiny bit, as long as it comes off for us. All right, we want to get this off as fast as we can to avoid as much oil spillage from the filter. And then the rest of it's going to spill, but that is what it is, so that's not bad. We will towel off anything that did fall past the bag, which is pretty minimal, thankfully. And then we're going to stick the new filter on just so that we're ready to rock and roll. Stuck already. How did you manage to wrap yourself around this tree, mister? Oh, that's a rose bush. Oh, hang on. That wasn't the most fun I've ever had, but hey, the bike is clean, and if it's a couple little dirty spots here and there, we can spot clean them, but I just needed to get the bulk of it done because it was pretty filthy. So that is super, super helpful, and now we can go ahead and just start buffing things as we desire and getting this thing all fully detailed. Pretty excited. Obviously let it drip dry first, but... All right, next we are going to install some OEM Harley parts, baby. New foot pegs. I'm probably the only person in the world who really, really prefers the stock foot pegs over anything aftermarket. And I bought the actual spring washers because I've bought the knockoff versions of these and they just let the pegs go crazy in here. So I wanted to get nice factory spring washers for these guys. These should hopefully work out really well. So we're going to get these puppies installed. So if you've ever worked on the Harley foot pegs before, pretty simple. It's just a little tiny snap ring, so you got to kind of be careful with her. Very, very, very careful. You don't want to hyperextend it either. You can bend them back a couple times. I think I've actually got some extras lying around somewhere that I should probably locate one of these years, but there we go. Very good. Welcome back, guys. It is a very special day today. I'm finally taking the motorcycle tank for my 05 Sportster to the painter to get finished and painted. It is so buried under here, I'm going to throw some pictures up of it instead of unburying it. But yeah, hopefully in a few months' time at worst or whatever, I don't know what his schedule is like, but hopefully we can get this thing done and finally be able to put it back on the bike. Stay tuned. Here we are taking the old tank off and just getting the gas out of it, which always takes a little while, but using a rubber hose and the petcock that it comes with makes it a lot easier. If you got a fuel injected bike, it's a little bit harder, but you can still do it. And just getting this thing all cleaned out, and I'm actually going to wind up spraying a little bit of oil undercoating inside of it, just a tiny bit, just enough so that when it sits there, it's not just rusting from the inside out. And here I'm mounting it to a board just so I can make it easier to buff and polish a tank in the future. I really wouldn't do this on this old tank, but I wanted to just have it ready. It's a big day today. It is now the middle of February, or almost the middle of February. We got the motorcycle tank strapped in back there under some blankets and a towel. And we're going to get it clear PPF'd. I did want to do this, even though it's kind of a pain in the butt to get done. And I didn't want to do it myself because I suck at it. Just to help keep belt buckles and coat scratches and the inevitable, things that fall on the top of a motorcycle tank from scratching it all up after I just put all this money and time and effort into it. So I think it'll be worth it. It's not cheap because it's all custom cut and they got to be real careful with the seams and stuff, but I'll show it to you when it's done. Hopefully the next clip that you see is me a happy customer of getting this PPF'd. So stay tuned. Guys, it is truly a momentous day. I can't believe we finally made it here. But the tank is back. The tank is painted. The tank is now ceramic coated. I was originally going to get this tank wrapped. The whole thing, PPF'd. And then that turned into just the top because PPF is kind of tricky on these tight angles, and you need relief cuts, and nobody makes templates for them, which then turned into it just getting ceramic coated because they weren't able to PPF it. So I had a really good shop do it for me. They were super good to work with. It all worked out in the end, and this thing still has a coating of protection on it. More than just wax, which is pretty cool. I'm gonna clean it up when I get it on the bike. You know, it's just a little bit fuzzy for me handling it, but I'm not gonna clean it now to then clean it again. But I am super excited. I am going to run the camera as I put this thing on, and then we're gonna take a nice close look at this bike. But everything looks pretty darn good. This Harley logo, really, really up close. It's a little bit choppy on the print and stuff. This is the side that was repaired. But you know what? It's close enough. The tank looks really good. It tells part of the story too, so I don't mind it. I'm pretty darn happy with how it came out overall. Solid 9.5 out of 10, which for a 20-year-old motorcycle with 71,446 miles, I will take a 9.5 out of 10 all day, every day, and I ride the crap out of this thing, so it's good enough. So let's get to it, and let's get this baby installed. Thank you. Oh, hello, Boone. Hi, buddy. Years at this point, literal years, to get this bike back to where it belongs. If I had known how long it would take to fix up, would I have done what I did? Would I have ridden a little safer, a little smarter, not done wheel it? I don't know. You know, it's always easy in life to second guess everything you do. You can spend a whole lifetime second guessing your decisions, as opposed to just moving on, accepting it as a learning experience. And it's all part of our life story. Not to be too, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Hi, big boy. I gotta find the little spaces. I may have lost some parts in this process. That's a problem. All right, I found my missing part. Really wasn't missing. It was actually right where I needed it to be. But anywho, once you get one kind of through there, you're generally speaking out of the weeds. Okay, that's about right. Give her a little dose of the blue Loctite. These don't really seem to back off. I have not Loctited these in the past. One of the few bolts on a Harley that seems to just do fine, not Loctited. Okay, we're about to install the finishing touch here. The smoked taillight is a bit dim, for one. And for two, is it not even blinking anymore? Oh, that's the clutch, dummy. A little bit dim for one, and for two, I just don't really like the look. I like the classic, just OEM Plus look of a nice red taillight. Wow, where'd all that debris come from? It's like straight up salt. Huh, look at that. Well, we'll clean all this up too while we're at it. Kind of glad we did this. Jeez. All right, let's pop all these fellers off. Come on, babies. This seems to be more sealed than that new one, which is good. You gotta see, we got a lot of little harnesses on here. What do we got going on here, folks? My buddy bought me this Wolfbox Super Turbo fan. It's shockingly strong, so we're gonna start using it for car stuff and whatever, and see what we think of it. Not quite enough to blow that off. Let me get the thinner tip. Try a little bit thinner tip. Not quite. Give her a little spurts of glass cleaner, a little agitation. See if we can't get everything to clean up nice with this. It's actually not too awful bad in here, just a little bit of road grime. That's better. Okie dokie, Smokey. I think we're only gonna need these 3 right here. These 2. Yeah, interesting. This tank is now finally corrected. D-O-N-E, done. All right, we're gonna make some educated guesses here rather than reading the instructions. That would be silly, obviously. Looks like this is in fact the left, and this is in fact the right. So now we'll go ahead and give this a test. Make sure we're correct. Look at that. Nice. Now crank that down all the way until we get the other one in. Nice. Love it. You'll love to see it. Not even gonna clean this bike up again until spring. It's now it's a little bit, you know, hazy because I had the heater on, but everything's dialed, man. Everything is super dialed right now. I can't believe it. It's for the first time since October of 2023 when I had to layer down. But we're gonna start from the tip to tail. We're gonna go over everything. So front tire's in good shape still. It is, you know, a little bit older, but totally good shape. Rebuilt the front end this winter, as you saw in this video. The front brakes are still good, but I put new fluid in them, so they're good. Probably could polish this wheel up a little bit more, but whatever. Fork brace is good. I gotta bend this fender. I noticed the fender's tweaked from the accident. Exhaust is all good. I fixed that intake issue I've had. You can look at old videos for this bracket. The tank, obviously, as we described. We've got all the controls and stuff up here dialed in pretty good. Could probably clean the rust off of that, but the bars are at a good height. This riser, I was gonna buy a new riser, but these spacers are fine. They're solid, they're whatever. Throttle cables are fixed. That was a whole nother thing that happened. This is a fun moment right here. You ready for this one? I sure am. That sounds even better than ever, knowing that it's all dialed in. Guys, as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for coming along on this journey with me, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.